So, you're having a tough day, huh? The delivery guy was late, and now the pizza is cold. Your game is stuttering like a PowerPoint presentation, and life feels kinda unfair. But imagine waking up in medieval Europe, feudal Japan, or prehistoric Africa. Forget about the pizza. You'll be lucky if your next-door neighbor doesn't club you over the head because he wants your shiny rock.
Huh?
Today, we'll find out exactly how long you'd last if you were randomly dropped into different historical eras. Prehistoric Africa. We're talking about 50,000 years ago. No supermarkets, no McDonald's drive-thru, just you, your bare hands, and whatever you can forage or hunt without becoming something else's lunch first. Hunting. Yeah, no thanks. Chasing wild animals with nothing but your soft modern hands isn't exactly a winning strategy. So you downgrade your expectations and start rummaging through bushes. Jackpot! Mushrooms! Are they edible? Who knows? You've seen enough cooking shows to know that one wrong bite, and you'll basically end up on National Geographic as the first human who discovered the Gyromitra esculenta species. You toss the mushroom aside, convinced there must be a better alternative. Then, finally, a bush full of plump, delicious-looking berries. You grab one, toss it in your mouth, and instantly spit it out because, surprise, it tastes like battery acid mixed with regret. And remember, the average human life expectancy was around 30. And that's only if you dodged every predator on the savannah. Because unless you're Bear Grylls with a spear, the wilderness is ruthless. Humans lived in small tribes, heavily relying on communal support and specialized hunting skills. So, unless you're a master tracker or can sweet-talk a caveman into sharing his freshly killed antelope, your survival odds are grim. Welcome to ancient Rome, around 50 AD. Congratulations, you've made it to civilization at its peak. Roads, aqueducts, sanitation systems, and even indoor plumbing. Rome sounds like the sweet spot, until you realize hygiene isn't exactly up to modern standards. Public baths were a major social hotspot, but also a breeding ground for disease. And speaking of disease, did I mention lead poisoning from the plumbing? Yeah, turns out that clean running water wasn't as safe as you'd hope. Now, how do you survive? Well, you could try your luck as a street performer, baker, scribe, or maybe apprentice to a blacksmith. But every job came with its own hazards. Bakers inhaled ash and flour dust all day. Scribes went blind under poor lighting, and blacksmiths burned themselves daily. Even the simple act of selling wine or olives in a marketplace meant you'd be elbow deep in corruption, scams, and harsh regulations. And then there's the matter of gladiator games. Imagine chilling at the Colosseum when suddenly you're volunteered to provide the next big show. Who ended up in the arena? Mostly criminals, debtors, war prisoners, and slaves. That said, if you got on the wrong side of the law, or owed a debt you couldn't pay, you could absolutely find yourself shoved into an arena to fight lions. On the bright side, Roman food was delicious, provided you didn't mind the occasional parasite. Expect to survive a month or two before succumbing to something horrible. Medieval Europe, the so-called Dark Ages, 500 to 1500 AD. This was an era defined by hard labor, disease, and frequent wars. Most people worked long, back-breaking hours farming land they didn't own, paying taxes to lords who barely protected them. Then there's everyone's favorite guest, the Black Death. Plague outbreaks would pop out frequently, wiping out entire villages. Imagine your panic when your neighbors suddenly start dropping like flies.
What? Huh? Oh no.
And then there's war. If you were conscripted, and most able-bodied men were, you'd be handed a rusty weapon, no training, and a prayer. Armor was expensive, and chances are you'd be fighting in nothing more protective than a tunic. Arrows were flying, swords were swinging, and the guy next to you was just as terrified and untrained as you. If you were captured, you might be ransomed, or you might just be beheaded for convenience. Realistically, your survival chances? Maybe 2 weeks. Vikings, 800 to 1000 AD. If you weren't a Viking yourself, you'd pray every night they wouldn't show up at your doorstep. Vikings traveled far and wide, pillaging coastal towns and monasteries with ruthless efficiency. Sometimes, they didn't even need to swing a blade. The mere sight of a dragon-headed longship on the horizon was enough to make entire villages pack up and bolt. Fear was one of their sharpest weapons. But what if you were one of them? Welcome to a world of honor, bravery, and constant danger. Vikings were not just raiders. They were also farmers, traders, and settlers. Life was a strange mix. One week you're storming a monastery with an axe. The next you're arguing with your neighbor over who stole your goat.
Bjorn, where's my goat?
Your goat? Ha! She walked into my yard all on her own. That makes her mine now.
That's not how goats work. She's got my rune painted on her horns.
Runes wash off. Maybe the gods wanted me to have her.
The gods don't give goats to thieves.
Thief? I'm no thief. You'll have to catch me first, goatless wonder.
Life was hard. You lived in wooden longhouses, relied on salted fish and barley porridge, and slept under animal skins in frigid conditions. Sailing was another beast entirely. Picture a narrow wooden longship, open to the elements, with no bathroom breaks and barely any shelter. And when storms hit, ships capsized often. Survival depended heavily on your physical toughness and ability to wield an axe. If you lack those skills, let's say you've got about 3 days at sea before you're unceremoniously tossed overboard. Feudal Japan, 1300s, a land of honor, samurai, and amazing swords. Sounds fantastic, right? Well, only if you're a samurai. If you're a regular peasant, life was hard and short. You'd spend your days farming rice, dealing with oppressive taxes, and occasionally being caught in bloody feuds between rival warlords. But what if you did adapt? Let's say you embraced rice farming, sunrise to sunset labor in muddy fields, swatting mosquitoes, praying the monsoon doesn't wipe out your crops. Even then, you could still die from starvation, infection, snakebite, or getting caught up in a conflict you wanted no part of. So what were these feuds all about? Japan was fractured into dozens of territories ruled by daimyos, powerful warlords who commanded armies of samurai. These daimyos were constantly fighting for more land, more power, and more prestige. It wasn't uncommon for entire villages to be razed because a rival lord saw your valley as the perfect expansion zone. For the average modern person, the odds of survival here depend entirely on your ability to quickly adapt to rigid social structures. Realistically, about 1 to 2 weeks. Ancient Egypt, around 2500 BC. You spawned in the city of Memphis. Good news, you won't immediately be eaten by a lion.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Bad news, you're probably going to be put to work building something ridiculously huge and triangle-shaped. Egyptian society was incredibly advanced for its time. Sophisticated medicine, impressive architecture, and lots of eyeliner. But sanitation was still an issue. Cholera, dysentery, and malaria were like the common cold. And oh boy, if you think your boss micromanages you now, imagine an overseer who literally has permission to whip you if you procrastinate even a tiny bit. Now, what if you were to try and run away from your labor assignment? Well, you can say goodbye to freedom. Attempting to escape your work site could land you in chains, or worse, executed as an example to others. Even if you made it out of the city, the surrounding desert isn't exactly brimming with opportunities. There are no diners out there.
Huh?
I need it!
Just scorching heat, venomous creatures, and dehydration waiting to kill you faster than a pyramid block to the foot. So, yeah, maybe just pick up the chisel and start carving. As the lion charges, teeth out and death imminent, you blink and poof. You're back in your comfy room, wrapped in a blanket, surrounded by snacks and high-speed Wi-Fi. You take a deep breath and realize humanity spent thousands of years dodging spears, plagues, and angry emperors. For once, you actually appreciate how absurdly good modern life is. And maybe, just maybe, you'll stop saying you were born in the wrong era